Director Anderson, can you describe how Oklahoma has become a hotbed for illegal marijuana grow operations, and can you put that in the context as it is compared against the other 49 states?
Well, what happened with Oklahoma was, one, Oklahoma is a very rural state, has a lack of resources when it comes to public safety. We also have very cheap farmland. We also have the most liberal marijuana laws in the union. So whenever Oklahoma enacted the medical marijuana statute that we passed, it opened up Pandora's box for Oklahoma. So what you had a very organized group of Chinese nationals who actually, this isn't just in the US, they're global with what they're doing, but they own the market of marijuana. They actually took a market that was the #1 cash drug crop for the cartel, and they own that, and they've owned that for several years now. They moved those operations because of crackdowns that were going on in New Mexico and California to Oklahoma. One, because it is rural. Two, the land is very, very cheap. What you can buy 80 acres in Oklahoma, what you can buy a block for in California. With our laxed laws, that is exactly what happened in Oklahoma.
Mr. Urban, you mentioned a minute ago, if I remember hearing you correctly, that $300 billion is what you all have seen is the 2025 number of illicit marijuana being moved across the United States. Did I understand that stat correctly, $300 billion?
I believe that's correct. It was in my written statement.
So
I believe the time period, it's a massive amount of money.
In tandem with what Mr. Anderson is talking about, when they're looking at the amount of plants in Oklahoma, compared that they have registration on, compared to what they know they're able to produce, and what's been unreported, Oklahoma alone believes they have a $150 billion per year illicit marijuana industry. To put that in context, the state budget of Oklahoma to run all areas of governance from the state level in Oklahoma is $13 billion. 10 times the state budget is the illegal activity of marijuana, and it's why it's sadly become, and I hate this for my state, a leading exporter of marijuana in this nation. Illegal marijuana export. It's almost half of the number that I think that the DEA is looking at. And it's just astounding. Director Anderson, what kind of response are we getting in Oklahoma in terms of knowing that what's opened this thing up? What do you think that it's going to take for the average person in Oklahoma to realize this is such a problem and that this is not something that we can, as you cite the homicides at Hennessy, we've got McAllister Ammunition Plant, that there's some activity adjacent to it, where 1/3 of all munitions for this country come for, in McAllister, Oklahoma, the congressional district that I represent, munitions for our national defense, and Chinese nationalists adjacent to it, there's some concern about illicit activity. What is it going to take for Oklahoma, for the grassroots that ultimately manifests itself, where the legislature then makes some changes? What does the law enforcement have to do to get the attention of Oklahoma officials?
Thank you for the question. I wished I knew the answer to that because I've been trying for 5 years. I will say we are starting to gain traction now as far as global or nationwide what's going on in Oklahoma, because literally what's going on in Oklahoma, whenever I talk about the 85 million pounds that's unaccounted for, that's going across the U.S. And understand that's what we know is there. There's no telling how much that really is, because if we know there's 85 million unaccounted for, is there another 85 million or 100 billion that we don't know about? Because typically when we go into these operations, they don't have metric tags on them. They tag a few. You may have 30,000 plants, and they may have 1,000 of those tagged. So there's a lot more that's not tagged than there is tagged. But I do think we're making some headway as far as letting people know what's going on. And for me, this isn't about, I want to be very clear, this isn't just about marijuana. I'm not talking about mom or pop operations or even about people who utilize marijuana for whatever medical purpose they use it for. I'm talking about real organized transnational criminals who do not have our best interest at heart. When I say our best interest, I'm talking about the American people as a whole. So that is my biggest concern with what's going on with this whole catastrophe in Oklahoma.